was home for the holidays from college, and my friend Sarah invited me to go to Palm Springs to celebrate New Year's with her mom and our friend Rachel. I didn't have any other plans, so I decided to go with them. We went to a cool city about an hour from where we live, but that is big on shopping and resorts. We planned to have a pretty calm night, watch the ball drop at a block party thing downtown, have a few drinks at a bar. Since we're on the west coast, the ball drop is at 9. So at around 8, we ventured from our hotel, walking to the block party about a mile away. On the way, we passed by a very lively bar. We decided to stop by and spent 15 minutes dancing, but didn't get any drinks. It was a gay bar, and Sarah and Rachel being gay, they were stoked on it and wanted to come back after the ball drop, even though it was about 90% men there. We continue on to the block party, get some dinner, a glass of champagne. The ball dropped and they had a DJ, so we spent about an hour there dancing. After we got tired of it, we decided to head back to the bar and hang out there until midnight. Once we get there, Sarah's mom pays for a drink for each of us, but leaves soon after that because she was tired. It's about 10:30 at this point, and Sarah, Rachel, and I are enjoying our drinks and having fun dancing. Rachel tried some of my drinks since it was one she hadn't had before. I constantly have my guard up when drinking in public, and I felt safe at this bar because it was 90% gay men, who I thought would not have an interest in me. I went back to the bar to get a second drink, and that's the last thing I remember. The rest I've gathered from Sarah and Rachel. Almost immediately after getting my second drink, I asked Rachel to go to the bathroom with me because I wasn't feeling well, even though I was completely fine 10 minutes before. Once in the bathroom, I just collapsed on the floor, and I was almost unresponsive. Rachel, now worried, somehow drags my half-lifeless body out to where Sarah was waiting for us. Security, seeing my condition and assuming I was wasted, asked us to leave. Sarah and Rachel decided to take me back to the hotel about a half a mile away. By this point, I was unconscious and there were barely any sounds escaping from my mouth. They saw someone leave the bar at the same time as us who was walking near us, but they were preoccupied with trying to keep my lifeless body off the ground. At one point, I threw up all over myself, the both of them, the sidewalk, etc. The next part of the story we had to get from Sarah, and Rachel doesn't have any memory of this. Still struggling to carry me, the man they saw leave the bar approached them. He was hitting on Rachel, trying to get her to go grab a drink with him. She was very agitated and told him to leave. Her friend needed help right now. He didn't take no for an answer and continued to follow us down the street, asking if they want to get drinks with him, if he can help carry me and such. A middle-aged woman witnessing this came up and told the man off. Something along the lines of, "Stop harassing these young women or I'm going to call the police." He left after that. Next, by some miracle, an EMT and his wife enjoying the holiday ran into us on the street. He checked me out to make sure something wasn't majorly wrong and then carried me the rest of the way to my hotel and into the room, since my friends could barely hold me up. They thanked him profusely and him and his wife left. This is where Rachel's memory kicks back in. 5 minutes later, they get a knock on the door and it's the EMT and his wife again. They came to let us know that a man followed us to the hotel and they just saw him hop the gate and start to make his way to our room. My friends called hotel security, but they were unable to find him. My friends didn't get a glimpse of him, but I'm sure it was the same man from earlier. I spent the rest of the night vomiting everything in my body and dry heaving after that. I woke up the next morning in a pile of pillows and blankets on the bathroom floor. My last memory was at the bar getting a second drink, and my friends filled me in on everything that had happened. Feeling like crap, I thought I must have drank way too much, but I had never blacked out before in my life, and the amount of drinks I had, 2 in 2 hours since I didn't get to drink my second at the bar, didn't add up to me being completely unconscious. We decided my first drink had to have been drugged, since Rachel had some of it and had no memory of our walk home, even though she was fully functional. I'm sure that man was talking to Rachel and then followed us back was the same one that slipped something in my drink. To this day, I don't really know how I could have been slipped something. I got my drink from the bar and never set it down. My best guess was that it was already in the cup. Thankfully, I had a good friend and kind strangers protecting me that night. It keeps me up at night thinking what could have happened under different circumstances. So, I've been wanting to write this encounter out for a while now. Unfortunately, it's taken me a long time to even fully fathom and process the potential danger I was in the evening that this story takes place. This occurred just shy of 1 year ago. I am a 22-year-old female who is attending university in a larger city 3 hours away from my hometown. Therefore, I was living alone at the time, with my closest relatives being hours away from me. I had just recently gotten out of a very abusive relationship, and honestly, I was extremely heartbroken and felt devastated. I had been living in my small one-bedroom apartment with said boyfriend for the past 2 years. After the tumultuous end of our relationship, he moved out and I remained residing in this apartment. I'm only mentioning that detail because in some way it plays into the reckless decisions I made on this evening. For further explanation, it was hard for me to go home to an empty apartment, which amplified and worsened the heartbreak I was feeling at the time. Anyways, on to the story. My friends had decided to take me to a hockey game to get me out of the house and potentially get my mind off of the breakup. It was a Friday night. We had been consuming fair amounts of alcohol during the progression of the hockey game. In the arena we were attending, there is also a casino. Following the game, we decided to head there for a few more alcoholic beverages. It was a busy night and the line for the bar was lengthy. During the duration of the time I was patiently waiting for service, I had begun to speak to a group of 3 men and foolishly exchanged numbers with one member of their group. My friends and I decided to call it a night, following only one drink at the casino due to the overwhelming amount of people crowding the area. We part ways, but instead of going to my home, I spontaneously and quite drunkenly decided to text the man I had previously exchanged contact information with. He responds, informing me that he and his friends had relocated to a nightclub in the area and inviting me to join them to continue the night of drinking. I still regret almost every choice I made on this evening, but I booked an Uber to meet the group of men and headed to their direction. The night from there on consisted of large volumes of alcohol and dancing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, my judgment was severely lacking due to both intoxication and the impulsiveness I was feeling, possibly in attempts to numb the pain of the breakup. I had never had a one-night stand before and decided to go home with the man I had been chatting and dancing with all evening. We arrived at his residence via Uber, and it was uncannily clean. Think of hospital level of clean, right down to the smell. Without even offering, he pours us each a glass of seemingly expensive red wine. I thought nothing of it at the time, being that he had poured it right in front of me and drank it eagerly. This is the last memory I have prior to waking up in his bedroom due to the noise of the shower running. I was groggy and dazed when I woke up, but slowly I began recollecting where I was, who I was with, etc. I began to panic when I realized the only article of clothing still left on my body was my bra. I frantically began to search for my cell phone, clothes, and wallet. I rushed out of his bedroom, hoping to leave unnoticed prior to him getting out of the shower, and my heart dropped. All of his furniture and floors were completely covered with plastic shower curtains, which I distinctly remembered not being there prior to me blacking out. Worse yet, all of my personal belongings were placed neatly on his kitchen island alongside a hammer. My instincts kicked in and I swiftly grabbed my things and ran out the door, not even bothering to put my clothes on first. Once I was out of the house, I ran for several minutes in a random direction, panicked and adrenaline-fueled, slipping on my clothing as I ran. Once I finally stopped, I called a cab and went to my apartment, not speaking about this incident to anyone for a long time to come. The detail that haunts me the most is that the only thing missing of my personal belongings was my ID. What were his intentions? Did he take my ID as some sort of trophy or memento of what he had planned for me that evening? What was put in that wine to sedate me in that way? Looking back on it, I realized I should have contacted the authorities immediately. Perhaps the reason for both me not speaking up to law enforcement or even informing my close family members and friends about the horrors I witnessed that evening was because I was, and still am, highly ashamed of the impulsiveness and naivety I acted with that night. This eats away at me daily because I believed it is potentially too late for me to report the man, seeing as I do not have the slightest recollection of where his house was located or his real name. I did try to call the number he was texting me with that night, and it was no longer in service. Also, I am positive that I had my ID in my possession when we left the club. If anyone can give me advice on how or if I can pursue this, I would be forever grateful. It weighs on my conscience to be in constant fear that he has hurt other females prior to and since my encounter. I was not in the right state of mind for not attempting to contact the authorities sooner. So this was nearly 20 years ago. Over a few months, all these posters of missing women kept going up in the neighborhood I lived in and neighborhoods nearby. One night we were sitting in a bar and there were probably about 20 people in there in total. Everyone's having a nice time, no drama, nothing out of the ordinary. When this guy walks in and sits down, he was wearing regular, not noteworthy clothing. He didn't talk or say anything strange. He wasn't even acting in a weird way, but the whole room went cold. People stopped talking, shuffling around in their seats. It was like this dark, unrecognizable energy had entered the room. I remember feeling breathless and like I just wanted to run from the room. Everyone else in the bar seemed to be responding the same way. The guy walked over the bar and asked for a drink, and I've never seen this happen before to a sober customer who hasn't caused any trouble, but the barman turned him away, and the guy left. Almost immediately, the atmosphere went back to what it had been. I walked up to the bar and ordered a drink and asked the bartender why he refused the guy a drink. We were friendly as I drank there regularly. He said the guy just made him uncomfortable in a way he'd never experienced before, that he couldn't bring himself to serve him a drink. Other people in the bar began to agree, but no one could put their finger on why. A couple of weeks later, I was watching the news and there was a breaking story about how someone found dismembered limbs in a rubbish bag. The remains belonged to the missing women whose missing photos we'd been seeing for months. They were all sex workers. They showed a photograph of the serial killer they'd caught, and sure enough, it was the guy in the bar that night who no one could bear to be in the room with. I can't explain why, because when he walked in and asked for a drink, he really didn't do anything strange, but he brought this terrifying, inhumane, unrecognizable energy with him. Sometimes I even wonder if he had just killed someone that night or killed someone an hour or so later, and that's why the presence of evil felt so visceral that night.